Space Shuttle, this is flight safety. Keep your hands on the handrail or inside the vehicle and remain seated while in motion. You are clear for launch. Have a great flight to Starport 75.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Pretty good. It was a little too relaxed, but it's getting late here.
Yeah.
So, anyway, hey, I am here. I've got my coffee. I've got my slippers on. I have a notebook. I got a pen.
Wow.
And I'm ready to learn some things.
All right.
So, yeah. So, what are you gonna teach us about, Uncle Glenn?
Right. So we just hit a milestone back in January. It has been 20 years since Horizons closed at Epcot.
Whoa!
Crazy, right?
Not since it opened.
Not since it opened.
It closed.
It closed 20 years ago on January 9th, 1999.
Wow!
Crazy,
Okay.
right?
That is crazy.
So we're gonna have an episode about Horizons where we talk about it. I know there's a ton of videos out there. What's nice about it is it happened. People knew it was going to happen. It wasn't just like they shut the door one day, and so there's enough. There's a good bit of video out there, so people can go watch it. So I'll go through the ride and go through the scenes that were in the ride, but I want to have a discussion about you and me and our why we. Well, I'm assuming you like Horizons. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Don't go assuming things.
That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So,
but I was going to say you have a heavy weight on your shoulders with this because this is a much beloved attraction in the pantheon of extinct attractions. So you better do it justice, man.
well, I'll try.
That's all I can tell you. All right. Or you're going to have a lot of angry folks in
I know.
videos. So, all right. Lay it on me. What's the Horizons all about?
So Horizons was an attraction that it opened a year after Epcot opened on October 1st, 1983. It was sponsored by General Electric for the first 10 years.
Oh,
and so
I didn't realize it was late. Sorry to jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was unofficially seen by both GE and Disney as kind of like a sequel to the Carousel of Progress.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the characters that are in Carousel of Progress and the ones that are in Horizons, it's the idea kind of is that they've grown up and moved out. So the kids have grown up and they're living on the farm and they're living in space and the mom and dad are living in an apartment in Future Town and so that's kind of the idea, and to the point where and we just found this out that when the Imagineers were trying to develop New Tomorrowland for Disneyland in the 90s, this is back when they still had what was it called? America Sings at America Sings. So when Carousel of Progress moved from Disneyland to Disney World, that the building remained and it became America Sings, and so they put in animatronics in there, and they had all the songs for American patriotic songs, and so they were looking for a new idea for that place, and so one of the ideas was basically to take the Carousel of Progress and Horizons and kind of mash them up into that one show area, and so it would go through, the turn of the century all the way to the future, like the way future. And so there's absolutely a link between these two attractions. And so
Can I jump in real quick? Because I like to follow along when you're sort of given the history.
Yeah.
I like to follow along and like see pictures as I go, so I can kind of like see what you're referring to. So I just did some Googling. If anybody out there wants to kind of Google along with me, there's actually a pretty interesting official Disney Parks blog post about Horizons from October 1st, 2015, called 13 Reasons Disney Park Fans Still Love Horizons Today. And they got a few pictures at least to kind of walk you through.
Cool.
So if anybody doesn't know the attraction, kind of see these while Glenn educates us.
So so this is the one pavilion at Epcot that combined all the themes of Epcot Center together. So there's technology, there's transportation, there's communication, food, health, energy, living in the future, undersea and in space. So it combines every single one of those into one, one pavilion where after you've, experienced all the other attractions, you could go on this and see, okay, here's transportation, here's energy, here's how it will really work in the future. This is what we're thinking about. This is where we're going, right?
And would you say that was an intentional inclusion of all those things, or is it just sort of kind of happened?
No, it was very intentional to do that.
Okay. All right.
So the design of the attraction was originally, it was supposed to be a look at the history of technology and be basically a large exhibit space for GE. So that was the original intent, which you would expect if you're spending millions of dollars to sponsor this thing. Sure. You want to have a place where you can show all your wares and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. But Jack Welch became chairman of GE, and he wanted the pavilion to be more futuristic. He didn't want it really looking back so much. Mm-hmm. He wanted it to be, okay, what is the future going to look like? So they went back to the drawing board. The Imagineers went back to the drawing board, and they changed the name to, they named it Century 3. That was the original name for the pavilion. And the design at that time was changed to focus on living in the future with technology. So, with GE and everything else, how is GE going to help you in the future, right? So that became the new idea for Horizons. So GE said, yeah, that sounds really good. Let's do that. So they signed for the sponsorship in October of 1980 and changed the name to Future Probe. Okay.
Not the best name ever.
Not the best name ever. So the building, it was designed to look like a spaceship, including the rear of the building was show ready, meaning it was built out. So unlike
I never
the
thought of
Guardians of the Galaxy,
see previous
right,
show.
Yeah. And the reason for that, it was built out so that if you saw it from the proposed Lake Buena Vista monorail, that it would look good. So that's why World of Motion was built out, a complete circle. Horizons was built out to look, and then
I didn't know that.
So the Lake Buena Vista monorail is supposed to go behind there and head out to.
I've never ridden that. Where do you get on that?
Well, don't even. Why are you now? You're poking the bear over here.
That's about where the Skyway's going to go, I think. Is it roughly?
Actually, it's not.
Kind of like that. Yeah,
so, anyway,
right. I didn't know that. So it's a show ready all all the way around. No spoilers.
Yeah. So they broke ground in February '82, and at that point, that's when the pavilion was named Horizons.
Do you know? Was it late, or because you mentioned they kind of changed the concept of this thing a few times? Was it intended to be there for opening? Do you think?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. They gave up on trying to get it ready for the opening of Epcot, and so from the start it was going to open late.
Okay, I was just scheduled to come in later.
Okay. So let's talk about the ride briefly. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, so I'll just skim over the scenes and what was going on. So you enter the load area, and you're entering into what kind of looked like a spaceport, if you will. So like an airport, but you're getting on a spaceship. So you boarded the car that it seated 4 people, but it faced left of forward motion. So you didn't get in the car and look forward. You were actually looking out the side, if you will, so that you could see all the scenes. So the ride started, and you did look back into history, right? So you started looking back at the dreams of the future over the centuries. So the first thing was Jules Verne's idea of a flight to the moon. Then a look at Paris, a future look at Paris from the 1920s. Then one of the more famous scenes is the quote unquote easy living scene, where you have a robot butler vacuuming.
One of my favorites.
And then you have a robot in the kitchen doing,
I'm still waiting for these, by the way. I don't know when they're
I know, right?
Here, but I'm still waiting.
So that's one that everybody remembers that
It's iconic. The term is
right.
iconic.
So that's from the 30s. Then looking back at tomorrow with movies and television specials. And then the last one that you look back is the future from the 50s, where the future was going to be fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you go through that, and then you go into the OmniMax theaters that you went around a couple times, and on these huge screens, from floor to ceiling screens, they showed. That's when they actually, the quote, "If we can dream it, we can do it." That's attributed to Walt Disney incorrectly. That's actually where that quote is from, is that during that transition, they mentioned that. So that's the transition between the past and the future. And then they're showing images of like the space shuttle lifting off and microprocessor up close, crystals, DNA chain, things like that. So that's when you go into the future, and that's when you meet the narrators. And so this is, if you want to say the mom and dad from Carousel of Progress, but now they're, grandparents, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So the year is supposed to be 2086.
I still got a ways to go. Okay.
And by the way, that was picked because when Disneyland opened in 1955, the Tomorrowland that was there was supposed to represent the year 1986.
Oh, I never knew that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't quite happen, but yeah,
I know.
cool.
So you meet their narrators. The dad's playing like some kind of piano looking thing. The mom's chatting with the daughter on a holophone,
Right.
And then you transition to seeing the daughter and her work. And so she's an agriculture engineer, and she's living on the farm, and there's another famous scene where as you're passing that, she's working in it's actually it's a lorange. It's not oranges. it's a half lime, half orange breed.
Okay. Why is this important?
I don't
Just
because if you ever see
future-y?
Lorange, L''orange, it's from
here, yeah.
Horizons. Yeah, that's the fruit that they were harvesting.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, so she's overseeing the harvest of that, and then but during that scene, that's when they put in the smell of the oranges.
Oh,
So
right.
everybody talks about the orange smell from Horizons. That's where that scene was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're in the desert. So they're farming in the desert. So that's the futuristic part of that, is showing that, with technology, we'll be able to farm in the desert where, we can't today. So then you keep going, you go into the house, the husband and son are making a birthday cake. But then you go into the den, and the daughter is on a huge, talking to a huge screen, to her boyfriend, who is working on a submarine. At his job. He's he's about college age. The daughter and this guy's, they're about college age. And so then you keep going and you go to the underwater city, and you see the children are getting ready to go deep sea diving. They have a little class, and the teacher's telling them, going over the safety precautions. And you keep going through the underwater part, and then you head to space, and you go into a space colony where the son from the family and his family live. And you see a few scenes. They're growing crystals in outer space. And then the birthday cake is actually for the grandson, who is in space. And so one of the last scenes is you see everybody from the family. They're all on hologram, and they're all singing happy birthday to the little boy. But then it's time to go home. And this was the part that was pretty cool for its time, is everybody got to vote on how you go back to the future port.
Right.
And you had 3 choices. Do you know what those 3 choices were?
No, I'm hoping you'll tell us. But so people who weren't there, this is a little like Spaceship Earth and how you have that sort of end of the attraction kind of pick. Yeah, a little like that.
Bit.
Oh, did I spoil that?
No,
Sorry.
that's true.
No, I don't remember what the choices were. What were they, Glenn?
All right, the one I always picked, space.
Why would you always pick the same?
Over time I picked all of them, but
okay, but
that was my favorite. Space, which was Omega Centauri.
Oh yeah.
Then land, which
Boring.
was Mesa Verde, which was the farm basically, and then sea, which was and it's a Sea Castle Resort.
The ocean, yeah.
So those were your 3 options. There were 4.
Space was clearly the correct answer.
4 people in the thing. So it went by how quick. So if 2 people voted for space and 2 people voted for land, it depended on who got their vote in quickest. Yeah.
Okay. Just like America voting system.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So then it took you on a little. So it closed in a little bit, so you couldn't see the other cars what they picked. And then you would fly back through space or land or sea, and then that's it. You end and you get out the ride and you walk out.
Did the cars rotate at all, like on a Spaceship Earth, or were they just sort of?
No, they were fixed. They were fixed. You always face the same way, and they there was no rotation.
So, but were you saying they actually closed a little bit to hide what the other people saw?
Yeah. So
that would kind of break the illusion,
right? So a screen kind of came. So the cars met up with a screen, but the screen had like wings, and it would close onto your car and follow you. And so it was a conveyor kind of, and then when you were done, it opened up, and you like my sound effects?
The sound effect, yeah, it's fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, masterful.
Yeah, good. Mm-hmm. So that was a ride. It closed in December 1994. But then it reopened in December 95. So it was closed for a year.
Why did they rehab it or?
No, they just closed it because and I don't know if I mentioned this, but GE's sponsorship was for 10 years, and so from 83 till 93, I got 80, probably 94. Anyway, so that's why I closed, because it didn't have sponsorship.
But that's silly. Like they couldn't keep the lights on. That's just dumb.
So it was closed for a year, but then it opened in December 95, because Universe of Energy and World of Motion were both closed, and so they
so there's like nothing on
everything
that side of the park.
Closed on that side.
Okay. What year was that? 95?
95, and it stayed open until 99. So 4 more years.
Okay.
3 more years because it closed January of 99. So.
I also I don't know when you want to get to retrospective. I also got the impression that it wasn't always operating during this. Like it was open, but
true. It was basically during busier seasons.
Yeah.
It was a crapshoot if when you went, if it was going to be open or not.
Right.
So
right.
So that's it. That's the over. So that's kind of all right. So did you like Horizons? Did you ride Horizons?
Well, now I gotta talk about some things,
all right.
Because now you're really good at this, Glenn. You're really good at getting me all worked up over things that I can't do anything about. So because I'm listening to you and your great rundown of this, and then while you're talking, I'm looking at some great articles, and there's one on theme park tourists. I don't know if it was part of your research.
No,
but we can link to this, and the title is Horizons: Why Disney Demolished Epcot's Best Ever Attraction.
All right, I like that.
And as they talk about it, it's like, no, this was, it's getting me all agitated, and it's like, no, this wasn't Epcot's best attraction. This may have been the best ever attraction that they ever made, ever. For somebody, that's like a future themed science, et cetera, and they're right as they're going back through it. So my impression of this ride, or not impression, my history of this ride. So as I kind of, as you know, and I've mentioned it before, first time I went to Disney and Epcot was in '84, summer of '84. Yeah. And I was thinking about this last week for some reason, but I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I think I may have only gone to Epcot one day in 1984, maybe twice, but I think it was one day because we were in Disney World for 5 days or a week or something like that. But I don't get the impression we went to Epcot a lot, or maybe we did like 2 days. Maybe one day was Future World and one day was World Showcase or something. I don't know, but anyway. My point is, it was for having maybe only been there one day, it really affected positively the rest of my life. I mean, that's how good Epcot was when it opened. So. Anyway, so I have vague vignettes of Horizons from that time. Maybe we rode it once, maybe a couple of times, but so it, there's certain scenes of it, like Jules Verne floating in the thing with the chicken, like I remember that, and the robot butler. Everybody is like certain things that I remember from it. What really stood out to me for whatever reason is the communication part of how they were communicating over these long distances with each other, and that really stuck out to me for some reason. So I had that trip, and then didn't go back until 96.
Okay.
And then we did some, because we didn't live here then, so we did trips from like 96, 97, 98. Okay. So there would have only been 3 years, and we probably did 3 or 4 trips in that time. So what I'm trying to get to is maybe in my life, I rode this thing like a half dozen times total. So unfortunately, I didn't, just the way the timing hit, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with Horizons before it left. But it stuck with me. And obviously, I mean, just me and my personality, these kinds of things, because it kind of what you're saying about it kind of summed up all the different elements of Epcot. This is sort of like Epcot condensed, right? If you took the whole kind of concept of Epcot and put it in one attraction, more so even than Spaceship Earth, this is really the thing. So that's kind of my thing. But now I'm all angry, wondering, like, well, why did they get rid of it? Like, why in God's name would you close this attraction? Like, what?
Well, look, attendance to it wasn't that great. I mean, they hurt themselves by closing it, so but toward the end, obviously you could just walk on it and with no problem. There was never a line for it. That doesn't mean it wasn't good. I mean, I loved it. So every time it was open, we would go. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And what kind of took the sting out for me was that, and I don't think you mentioned it too much yet, but the thing that replaced it, which it's a shame they just demolished the entire building, or whatever. But coming with Mission Space, me being a space geek, it kind of it took a little bit of the sting away. It's not like they replaced it with some sort of I don't know, football attraction or something. I love the football, but you know what I'm saying. So it took a little bit of the sting out. They had that neat sort of kind of like coming soon preview area of like Mission Space was coming and all that. So I was a little excited about that. And honestly, the first couple of times I rode Mission Space, which might have been with you, in fact, maybe. I don't know. I loved it. It felt like, it was a neat simulation of launching, but it was not, and if you read that theme park tourist article I linked to you, it was not, as they mentioned, it wasn't a bad attraction, Mission Space, but it just was nowhere near the sort of level of artistry that Horizons was.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't, for me, Mission Space does not have the same rewritability. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't ride. I ride it every time I go, but it's not. Yeah, it's
here. Well, here's the thing, Glenn. So you get me all worked up again. Here's the reason, and the reason why is all the stuff they do now. Yeah. I'm just gonna say all. Probably not true all, but I'm just gonna say all the stuff they do now is it's just entertainment, right? Yes. Like Mission Space is great, but there's nothing like Horizons and Carousel Progress and Spaceship Earth. These were things, even World of Motion. These were things that like you come out a little bit changed, like you'd learn things or see things a different way or feel optimism for the future. They weren't just like, hey, here's a roller coaster to go have fun on for a few minutes. They had a message to them that just not there anymore.
Yeah, and this was a 15-minute ride. Like,
right.
You're dedicating a good chunk of your vacation time to this, and so in 15 minutes you're absorbing a lot of information and seeing this whole story that unfold before you, and it didn't change. But every time I went on it, I would see something new. I would see little things that I hadn't seen before, or whatever, or understand it better, or it was you go on Mission Space, and yeah, it's fun. It's a 2-3 minute thrill ride,
superficial,
and it's like, all right, well, what are we what are you getting out of that? And I know the idea is to you're going training for space travel, but we don't even really have space travel anymore right now.
Yeah, and you know why? Oh, see, now you're getting me really worked up. And you know why we don't, Glenn? Because as a society, we've taken away all these things to make people imagine and dream and push forward, and it's all just the immediate sugar rush of just the entertainment factor of it. So all of these things, at least to me, they all kind of weave together of the problems of our times, of that. Things are just whatever. They're just a little too. We're just looking down all the time. We're never looking up and kind of forward. And this is why I don't think I've been on Mission Space in 10 years, maybe. Literally, I don't think I've been on it in a decade.
Yeah, and you don't feel like you're missing anything, right?
I'm not missing anything. But yet I always go on Spaceship Earth, not because it's vintage and retro and because I remember it as a kid, but because every time I'm on there, Glenn, probably like you and maybe a lot of others that listen to this, I think about things, right? It makes me, consider, even with the crappy ending they put in it, it makes me consider, kind of the world we live in and the history of humanity. And, it's got some depth to it. Even the stupid ride at the land does the same thing. You go through and you see the science involved and what we humans are doing. And
you want to leave it and go build your own garden, do something.
Well, I'm too lazy for that, but I love the idea of hydroponics.
Right.
I mean, that sounds awesome. I want to do something with that. Dripping sugar water sounds great. So, but we're just not getting those anymore. They kind of rip all that out of the seas. With the even though Nemo's cute and all, but it just it's now who's poking the bear. So, but Horizons. I'm glad you did this segment on Horizons because it really embodied all of that, and it really is a crime they let that one slip away, right?
Yep.
Because Wonders of Life. Okay, I can kind of see why that would end up being just Festival Center. Universe of Energy, okay, fine, but this should have been, because like I'm sorry, now I'm ranting, but like you said, this was iconic for what Epcot was about, more so even than Spaceship Earth. This really is the sort of centerpiece of what Epcot was
Absolutely. About. And I think if you ask most people who went to Epcot way back when, and you ask them what if you could bring back one ride, the vast majority. Everything I've seen on Horizons. That's the one people miss the most.
Yep.
And our kids are never going to experience it. You know what I mean? Like it's not. Yeah. You can't even pass that on and say, hey, here's the future that we can build together. And as we think back to it, there's nothing in there. I mean, you could essentially have the same ride right now, and we still haven't reached a lot of that. So, and if we do, then okay, update it a little bit. And, I miss it. I really wish it was there. And you're right. It did slip away.
But I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna play Disney management and touch on something you said before. Why? Because this is
because I hate Disney. No. Go ahead.
Somebody's got to take that side. We can't just sit here and agree with each other and go, back in our day it was great.
But it was.
Well, and along this, I think I mentioned to you a couple days ago when we were just chit-chatting about whatever, I really wonder, like, what a 12-year-old going to Epcot today gets out of that. Like, what is that, what is it? Does it have any meaning to them, or is it just like it's almost like just sort of the junk drawer park where just sort of like the extra stuff goes? Other than World Showcase that has its thing, but it just like sort of miscellaneous, kind of like what, like they must leave the park and go, what was that all about? Like, what was that there?
Yeah, and I, so I have a 13-year-old and I have a 10-year-old, and
yeah, but they grew up.
I know, and that's what I was going to preface by saying that they are my kids and they do know, but they love Epcot and they love and when I show them things like Horizons, the first thing they say is, "Why did they take that out?" That's what I want to go on.
Right. Well, okay, so let me get back to playing Disney management, right? So, Glenn, as you noted back at the 4-minute mark, people didn't ride this ride. Our charts show us that this was the least attended attraction in Future World. So why would we keep that around?
Yeah.
There, that's my Disney bean counter.
Voice. And that's why I mentioned it, because that's a very good point, and I have nothing to defend that, because that is true, and I don't know what you could do to promote it, to get people on it.
And that's the thing, is like, what is really the problem? Is it did it die away because nobody cared about it, or did nobody care about it because they didn't put enough energy into promoting it, updating it? And that's similar with Carousel of Progress. We've had that same ending on that thing for 20 years or whatever it's been.
True.
So, similar ideas.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that it closed in '94 and then reopened a year later. And I said they didn't do themselves any favors by doing that, because as soon as you do that, people say, well, it's closed. Like, okay, it's open again, but it was just closed for a year. Like, why would I want to go on it?
Right. Yeah, clearly this thing's headed for the trash bin, so it's not worth my time.
So I don't know how much of it was that, or it's a question we'll never know the answer to.
Here, but I want to end on a good note.
Okay.
I want to try and do a positive spin on this as much as I can, as we can. So, but here's a good aspect of this, and I think you kind of hinted at this also before. Even though we lost this attraction, the community did get warning it was going away, and it happened at a time when home video was not as good as it is today, clearly, but it wasn't bad, right? So there are a lot of sort of tribute videos and things that I think do it pretty good justice. That some other rides that maybe would have closed, 5 or 10 years earlier, that you wouldn't get as much, like try and figure out what Mission to Mars would look like. Good luck. You know what I mean? So at least there's, I think, a pretty good record of to at least get a, if you did ride it and you want to remember it, or you never got a chance to ride it, there's at least some good videos out there to at least get you close.
Yeah. And I'll put links to all of that in the show notes. One of the best ones, obviously, is Martin and his videos. He has one for the Ultimate Horizons tribute that covers a lot of the history, but it also has a really good. In fact, what he does, because I did look at it to remind me of what the entire ride was. But if there's something on a screen, he actually stops the recording, and he's recorded the whole. Like if there's a television screen or something, like he plays that whole television screen so you can see the whole
inset,
the whole loop before moving on.
Oh, that's
I
didn't
so it's longer than 15 minutes just the ride, because you do get everything.
He does such a great job.
He really does.
Hey, can we get him on the show?
Oh my god!
I mean, is he a super celebrity? We have to send him like a limo to go pick him up or something?
He lives in England, so that would be a long ride.
All right. Well, we'll send a plane for him.
Oh, okay.
We should do that. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, we could reach out to him
because we love his stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? All right. Let's have your people.
Okay,
work on that.
I will.
All right. Well, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I love that ride.
Yeah, so. I know. I did. Man, that's one I really, really miss. Really, really miss.
All right. Well, go to YouTube's. Go to the links.
Yes.
Good stuff. All right.
All right.
See you real soon.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Starport 75. Follow Chris on Twitter and Instagram at CBGray, and Glenn on Twitter and Instagram at DizWiz. Follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at Starport75 and Instagram at TheStarport75. For all things related to the show, including show notes and links to connect with us, visit us at starport75.com. This episode is sponsored by ParkLeap. Do you hate waiting in lines for your favorite rides at Disney World, Universal, and Disneyland? Of course you do. Everyone does. ParkLeap tracks current wait times for attractions in real time, analyzes them, and gives you immediate guidance on what to ride now and what to skip for a shorter wait later on. ParkLeap saves you time so you can do more, see more, and ride more. Many theme parks provide their own apps, which is great, but they only report the times. You only get information, you don't get guidance. Is that 40-minute wait good or bad? Parkleap can tell you. Parkleap also includes an interface that is clean, quick, and easy to use. Many vacationers travel to multiple theme parks. Now one app does it all. Whether you're a local resident and annual pass holder, or travel great lengths once a year or every few years, you want to make the most of your time and money. This is the app to get to help you do that. Get Parkleap in the Apple App Store. And thank you to Parkleap for sponsoring Starport 75.